Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say at the outset, I'd like to thank the Chairman for his willingness to consider the amendments of all the members of this committee and for allowing vigorous debate on those amendments. This has been a long and painstaking markup, and I appreciate the Chairman's willingness to hold it open and allow each member to present their amendments and present the arguments for it.
Thank you.
At the outset of this hearing, I expressed my hope and desire that this markup would prove a productive endeavor to improve this bill. And I noted at the time that the majority had the votes, that if each of the Democrats in the majority, along with the members of the Gang of Eight on the Republican side, voted as a bloc, that the majority had the ability to reject substantive amendments improving this bill. And I will note with regret that I believe that's what has happened, and I find that genuinely disappointing. I want common sense immigration reform to pass. I think our immigration system is broken. I think there are large bipartisan majorities in this country that want common sense immigration reform to pass. And this bill, in my view, has two major problems. Number one, it doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't stop illegal immigration. If anything, it may make the problem worse by not securing the border and by incentivizing future illegal immigration, which means human tragedies would flow as a direct result if this bill were to become law. But number two, I believe in its current form, this bill is not likely to become law. It may well have the votes to pass the Senate, but I do not believe this bill will pass the House of Representatives or become law. And I would view that as a terrible outcome if Congress did not actually fix the problem. I would note the last time the Senate considered immigration reform, that was the outcome. And indeed, President Obama played a role in helping kill immigration reform in 2007. And I believe it is the unwillingness to accept significant improvements that would solve the problem that are setting this bill up for defeat as well. In the course of this markup, I've introduced 5 amendments that were designed to improve the bill, and in particular to put it in a situation where it would actually fix the problem. First of all, I introduced an amendment to actually secure the border. One of the greatest failings of this bill is, in my opinion, it is almost utterly toothless with respect to the border. It has unmeasurable subjective metrics that are entrusted to the Secretary of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, rather than putting real assets on the ground. The amendment I introduced would have tripled the U.S. Border Patrol, would have increased 4-fold the helicopters and fixed-wing assets, would have put an entry-exit system and a biometric system in place, would have insisted on fixing the problem which large bipartisan majorities of Americans want. Unfortunately, every Democrat on this committee voted against putting real teeth in border security. I introduced 2 amendments to improve legal immigration. One, to increase high-skilled temporary workers 5-fold, from 65,000 to 325,000, because they're pro-growth. They would strengthen our economy and increase jobs. Unfortunately, every Democrat on this committee voted against increasing high-skilled immigration and voted instead to stay with the lower limits in this bill that I think are not sufficient to strengthen our economy. The Second Amendment would have doubled legal immigration, increased employment-based immigration, increased family-based immigration, simplified the system, and again, every Democrat on this committee voted against increasing legal immigration because I was told by my colleagues on the other side that a deal had been reached in closed-door negotiations with union leaders, and more legal immigration was not acceptable, was not part of that deal. I think that's an unfortunate admission of how this bill was arrived, and I think it is unfortunate that we saw the votes we did. And finally, I think to work and fix the problem and to be able to pass, this bill should respect the rule of law by not creating a path to citizenship for those who are here illegally. In my opinion, the path to citizenship is unfair to the millions who have followed the rules, who have waited years or decades to come here legally. It undermines the rule of law, And I believe it makes it quite likely this bill would be defeated. And in response, my colleagues on the other side, I was informed that without the path to citizenship, there could be no reform at all. In other words, that we would not improve border security, we would not improve high-skilled immigration, we would not address anything to take the 11 million who are living in the shadows out of the shadows unless there were a path to citizenship. That is exactly the sort of absolutist position that doomed immigration reform in 2007. And I hope when this bill goes to the floor of the Senate that those who want immigration reform to pass, and I count myself among them, I want common sense immigration reform to pass, will look to bipartisan areas of cooperation to improve this bill and to fix the problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.